Good morning. My name is Monique. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tomato Bliss, alongside Marie Crane, who joins us virtually from our farm in Southwest Michigan. At Tomato Bliss, we bring heirloom tomatoes to soups and gourmet sauces. Our mission is to save heirloom tomatoes from extinction and to bring biodiversity to every table. But why, you might ask? Well, because heirloom tomatoes aren't just delicious and nutritious, but also a biodiverse food system is a sustainable food system. And let's get one thing right. By sustainable, I mean good for people, good for the planet, and profitable. I want to start by saying thank you for this opportunity to share the Tomato Bliss story. If I may, I'd like to take you back to the beginning. It began with a true love of heirloom tomatoes and a curiosity. Why are there no products made with heirloom tomatoes on the market? We quickly came to realize that tomatoes have become a commodity crop, like wheat or soy. In commercial use, heirloom tomatoes are basically extinct. A little known but important fact, out of 10,000 tomato seed varieties, just 20 to 25 varieties are recommended for commercial use, and none of them are heirloom. This is a shame, but also an opportunity. Because while those funky looking heirloom tomatoes might not present the uniformity and durability that we expect from a tomato, they have tremendous benefits that we want to enjoy year round. So we started with seeds and a farm. This is what our farm looked like when we bought it in 2016. Fallen prey to industrial farming, once fertile ground had morphed over the years into dirt. In fact, we needed a drill just to get the little seedlings into the ground. And then when it rained, the water ran off. The good news, thanks to permaculture and biodiverse farming mechanisms, we've been able to transform degraded fields into a thriving ecosystem of diverse flora and fauna, offering a new supply chain of regeneratively farmed heirloom tomatoes. Thanks to support from the MSU Product Development Center, we were able to develop an end-to-end process to extend the shelf life of farm fresh heirloom tomatoes in a shelf-stable format. That's without preservatives, fillers, or retort. And thanks in part to a grant from the Michigan Department of Agriculture, we were able to purchase and build out a local production facility just 70 miles down the road from our farm. Beyond our farm, we're proud to share that we've built a community of local, independent, like-minded farmers who are glad to sell their surplus heirloom tomatoes and who share our vision for going beyond organic to really heal the soil. One step further, as demand has continued to grow, we've begun conversations with commercial farmers who are excited by the prospect of transitioning portions of their land to grow the Tomato Bliss way. Word about Tomato Bliss is starting to catch on among farmers who are glad to have a guaranteed source of revenue, among customers who love the benefits that heirloom tomatoes can have, and among industry insiders like the Crop Diversity Trust, who featured us at the Food Forever conference in 2019. Next, after testing a variety of recipes using our heirloom tomatoes as a vendor at Chicago's Green City Farmers Market, we found a clear product that customers love: our roasted heirloom tomato soups in 4 globally inspired flavors: Tuscan, Moroccan, masala, and chipotle. In fact, our masala heirloom tomato soup was voted the best soup by Prevention Magazine in the 2022 Healthy Food Awards. Our plant-powered recipes are naturally low in sodium, dairy-free, gluten-free, and they have 0 grams of added sugar. Heirloom tomatoes provide a delectable flavor trip without any of the unwanted stuff. Our soups are also super versatile. They can be enjoyed warm or chilled like gazpacho, and they can be used as a base ingredient to make a number of gourmet recipes. Lastly, eating a rainbow medley of heirloom tomatoes has natural health benefits. Our soups, unlike others on the market, are packed with vitamin C, antioxidants, and lycopene. Biodiverse food really is medicine. So what's next? Well, number 1, expand the reach of our award-winning heirloom tomato soups. And number 2, convert more land from monoculture commodity crops to biodiverse ecosystems with a commitment to seed diversity. Here's where I need your help. I'm seeking advice on how to best market our heirloom tomato soups and gourmet sauces in food service. A little context, we have a unique opportunity with Gordon Food Service. They made a small investment in our company and they invited us to join Good Finds by Gordon, which is a division within GFS that offers marketing and distribution resources to selected brands that have a people, planet, and purpose-driven mission. I'm really excited to announce that our new half-gallon back-of-house pouches and our retail-ready glass jars will launch in Michigan-based GFS distribution centers in just 2 weeks. Today, we're focused on growing, producing, and distributing in our backyard in Michigan and the close surrounding area. So, in your opinion, after hearing our story, how do we empower restaurateurs to share the Tomato Bliss story? And is brand building and storytelling a realistic goal in food service? Specifically, in your opinion, as we launch, what points about Tomato Bliss do you think will be most compelling among food service customers? Where do we lean in? Local, low sodium, food is medicine, climate friendly, regeneratively grown, upcycled, women owned, convenient and ready to eat, quick scratch versatility. You can see, I'll stop. The list can go on and on. As a small but mighty team, how would you approach sharing our message? Thank you.
Okay, so Monique, I'll start with a easy underhand softball question, okay? So to the best of your knowledge, in your discussions with Gordon Food Service, do you have a good idea of what segments of food service they're serving? You know, is it institutional like university and corporate? Is it commercial like restaurants, cafes? And then among that, is it quick served? Is it high-end dining, that kind of thing? That might help a context. So just, there should be a PowerPoint.
Thank you. Yes, so Gordon Food Service spans the breadth of commercial and non-commercial food service. So we actually participated in the Food Foundry, which was an accelerator program by Gordon Food Service, and Relish Works, which is their innovation arm. And so I had the opportunity of meeting a bunch of different people within the different sectors within Gordon Food Service. What I can tell you is that today we have had some real interest from colleges and universities in the Michigan area because they love the local story. The students also have a really strong desire for fresh food and a strong ESG mandate among students and then also from their boards. The other sector that we've had some initial interest from is the healthcare space because our soups are so high in functional benefits. One serving of our heirloom tomato soups has 60% of your daily vitamin C, which is pretty awesome, right? So that's another place that I think we'll initially begin to start. The last thing I will share is that some Michigan-based sort of brand names like Zingerman's has picked up Tomato Bliss. They really love the local story as well, and they actually sell our glass jars.
Excellent, thank you.
Full disclosure, I'm an advisor to Tomato Bliss, so I'm going to have very little to say on this panel because I might influence it too much. So I'm going to pass the mic.
Oh, you're recusing yourself?
I'm recusing myself.
Betsy.
Okay.
You always have such good questions, though. Monique, I'm curious to hear, a little bit more about, you'd mentioned in your presentation that Gordon Food Service was going to support you in marketing. What does that look like from your perspective? And will they help you target certain audiences to help you really focus in on your best customer segmentation?
Yes, so to date, they really have been tremendous partners. We have been invited to 2 GFS trade shows, and have been in the Gordon or the GFS Good Finds booth. And we were able to be the exclusive participant sampling Tomato Bliss and getting leads from potential customers. So at no cost to Tomato Bliss, which has been pretty incredible, as you can, and also a great learning experience for us to really understand the food service landscape. They also did a promotional video around Tomato Bliss that will launch shortly that they will be sharing among their channels, and they'll also be putting a paid marketing program around it, really telling the story of Tomato Bliss and why they selected us as a member of Good Finds by Gordon. And then
Good, I have another quick follow-up
Okay,
question I
sure.
heard. I noticed that you didn't necessarily, beyond women-owned, I didn't see that you had certain certifications. So what are your thoughts around organic, non-GMO, those types of opportunities?
so we're certified women-owned, and our farms are being certified by Regenify, which we really love their standards because they also include biodiversity. I can tell you that today, 75% of the tomatoes in our product are either from our farm or other certified organic farms. As you can tell, we're very intentional about how we're building up the supply chain and building a truly sustainable supply chain. The one caveat is that certifications can be cost prohibitive for small independent farmers. So there's a balance that we need to toe there, but our mind is very much focused on that, and we will be certified Regenify.
Hi, I haven't seen you in a long time, and hello to Marie out there in the virtual universe. I've got a couple of questions. One is I want to follow up on that question about what the Good Finds marketing platform offers. And I think the piece that I don't quite understand yet is whether that platform is marketing Tomato Bliss to prospective food service customers, or whether that platform has tools that allow Tomato Bliss to market itself through customers who have already chosen to distribute you. So there's just the practical question. And then I know, because I've known you guys for a long time, this question of what's the right consumer story is something that you've been thinking about for quite a while. And I wonder if your own testing and learning and experimentation has yielded anything that might give us some clues about which part of the narrative is resonating and which parts have not.
So Good Finds by Gordon is a new program, so it's sort of being crafted in real time. I gave some examples, and they really have been tremendous partners to us and offered some unbelievable value so far, but it's really them sharing the message and less about tools for us to access. So another example that I didn't mention previously is that when we launch in their distribution centers, they will send out an email to their sales team announcing Tomato Bliss. They've also mentioned putting us on the homepage of Good Finds by Gordon and things like that. So definitely sharing our story and our vision and our product. Additionally, other ways in which they've been partners. So they introduced us to the Affinity Group, which is a Michigan-based broker. And so we just signed them on. So they're going to be our sales team and broker. So the other thing I will say is that if we have questions or needs, we're a small but mighty team. And so they've really been nice about, making inroads and introduction where needed. And then as it relates to consumer insights, yeah, I mean, we've done a couple of surveys, which I really love to do. And, we were participating at the Green City Farmers Market in Chicago, which was unbelievable because not only it was a great sales platform, it's mission aligned, but farmers markets are great because they give you an ability to have a direct dialogue with consumers. And many of them, they come to the farmers market as a destination. So they're there week after week and they share what they like about the product and how they're using it. Our understanding is that people love them, that you can just kind of open them and drink them as it is. It really is a ready to eat soup. But there is a small portion, I'd say about 40%, that would come and share ways in which they would use our heirloom tomato soup and gourmet sauce. Now we're positioning it in food service because it has great versatility. So for instance, when we're talking also to consumers, but also now to chefs, we're able to share recipes. So an heirloom tomato lasagna, enchiladas, You can use our heirloom tomato soup to make this unbelievable heirloom tomato macaroni and cheese that has all the functional benefits that our soups bring. A roasted root and lamb meatball tagine. So there are definitely applications beyond, but it's to be seen how we really want to focus in food service. I know that, you know, staff and back of house restaurants, they are squeezed right now, right? So being able to provide something to just slice and serve has some great benefits.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm curious about, just from an overarching business strategy perspective, are you interested more in this food service direction or in the consumer, building your brand with the consumer audience? And then I also, that's my first question, just, you know, as you grow, it sounds like your intention is to go, it'd be well beyond local. And then my other question is around this notion of, you talked about messaging, and it sounds like there's been a lot of thinking, and you listed a whole bunch of messages that you could use. I would love to hear your thoughts around soup versus tomato.
So yes, you're right. We are focused on food service right now. Ideally, we want to do both, you know, build our brand and also be successful just in food service in general. So my hope is that we can do a dual path, but again, to be seen how realistic that is. I'm less focused on creating a following from consumers, but more around food service customers. So that's working with chefs, working with a major quick serve restaurant, you know, like a Chipotle that would want to share the Tomato Bliss story and incorporate us into a tortilla soup or something like that. So I do want to share the message, but it's less right now consumer focus and more on the food service sector. At the end of the day, it really comes down to capital efficiency, bandwidth of our team, and then also scaling as part of our mission. You know, we want to convert as much land as possible to biodiverse growing. And this seems like a great path to doing so, in pairing with also the GFS and roads.
So Monique, just a few quick questions. How are, like, so you have, if you just target universities, you've got Michigan, you've got Michigan State, you've got a lot of fine, large schools out there. One question is your capacity, you know, so what can you realistically serve? Is, you know, getting into one big school or many big schools, and how long would it take to scale that? And then have you modeled out, for example, relative profitability of retail versus food service? So respective gross margins, associated selling costs, marketing costs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so Affinity Group, the broker that we hired, works with major brands like McCormick's and Panera Soups and things like that. And John, my contact, who's one of the founders, he loved the Tomato Bliss story. So that kind of got him hooked. But I think what really hooked him to sign the contract was that I said, I don't want hundreds of accounts, right? I want a couple very strategic accounts that we can grow in, that we can have nice feedback loops. So you're right. Can we go to all universities? No, we're in strong conversations with Notre Dame, which obviously is in Indiana, but it's right in our backyard, right across the border. And, you know, building our supply chain in alignment with our demand is something that I think a great deal about. So that's going to be something that we tether. A couple other things that I can share is that, so we own our facility and it's a 40,000 square foot facility. So right now, as you can imagine, we're just using a portion of it, but we can store up to 1 million pounds of fresh roasted heirloom tomatoes, which gives us the opportunity to sort of build the bank, if you will, and the proverbial bank in tomatoes. And there's a number of things at our facility, so we'd have to build up more lines. There are some things, low-hanging fruit that we can build out a more streamlined approach to production. But I think that we will have the capacity to scale, but in a measured way.
Perfect.
Yeah, just one quick question. I was a little confused with the ask about the marketing. Are you looking for direction on marketing to consumers through food service, or marketing to the chefs to get them to use the product? Because they're two very different things, and that will affect advice, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you for helping me to clarify. You're right, it's the latter. How to communicate to the food service customers, so chefs, quick service restaurants. If I may just want to, I didn't answer your question, I apologize about gross margin, but yes, in food service, so in the pouches, our gross margins are around 42%. We have about a 5% marketing fee, and then, 5% to the broker, but the contribution margins are there.
So just real quick, Monique, you mentioned that Zingerman's has picked you up. They have both food service and retail storefront. Are they doing your product in both areas?
Hopefully in time. Our back of house food service offering is literally in its first production right now. So by next week, we'll have something to share, but this is really brand new and something that we have developed in partnership with Gordon Food Service.
Okay, so is Zingerman's right now selling your jars of soup?
Today, our jars,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
but not our pouches.
All right, so now we'll go into the portion where you'll just listen and our panel will offer up some ideas and suggestions. So who'd like to begin?
I've got a microphone, so I might as well start. Mine end up back here again as I think of more ideas. It's a really good question. And I really, first of all, I appreciate just the story that you shared with us and giving us the full background. Really liked the focus of your question that you've asked of the panel, and it helped to have it clarified. In thinking about the opportunity to be able to market through food service to their customer, that's really challenging because most food service companies aren't going to say this is tomato bliss on it. What they probably most likely will highlight is the heirloom tomato factor, because that's probably the most recognizable by the everyday customer. So you need to be kind of thinking about when you're thinking about your messaging, like what is most common right now, particularly if you're looking at food service through universities and colleges, what is that customer in that age group really thinking about? So the regenerative part, I think, is really important, the heirloom part, but I wouldn't be looking for them to be helping you promote the brand of Tomato Bliss. So that would be something I would look at. And I would also really recommend that you think hard about making sure that you don't put all of your opportunities in one basket, so to speak, and that you make sure that you're continuing to build out both your channel opportunities so that when one is building, the other one is helping to support that brand overall.
Switch.
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying. I think your story is amazing, and I think it's really exciting, everything that's happening, great momentum. And I think that the focus on food service to start makes sense. And the reason why I was asking what your focus was is because it's a little bit of different approaches depending on what you're going to prioritize first. For example, if you were focusing on consumer first, or really getting the understanding of the brand with consumers first in a way, the soup or the form factor or the ease factor or those things could be the Trojan horse for the story, the biodiversity story and the farm story that you're trying to tell. I do think there is an opportunity in the direction that you're going now to really actually be more owning the tomato actually, and owning heirloom tomatoes. And I think that, in the written case study that you wrote, the term biodiverse tomatoes, love that term. It's so simple and it says so much, right? And also you said, save heirloom tomatoes from extinction, which is really fun. And also the food service audience needs to feel like this is fun, right? And so it's not, they're, in a way, we're all humans, this is communicating to humans. So I love the idea of owning the tomato. These are form factors and not necessarily, because ultimately, if you own the tomato, there's a lot that you can, the heirloom tomato, the biodiverse tomato, then there's a lot that you can do with it, and it will give you a deep authenticity and integrity when you do want to, again, focus on the broader audience. And the other thing that comes to mind, and within the biodiverse tomatoes, then you have your points of regenerating degraded farms and holistic farming methods and moving away from monoculture and market access for family farmers and all the things that you want to talk about, but you have this sort of headline. The other thing I just wanted to toss out there is that something that could work really well, because food service audiences or people too, in this kind of fun frame of saving heirloom tomatoes from extinction, we're in this moment where we're loving the diversity of what they look like. Like heirloom tomatoes are amazing. The way they look and the colors and the varieties, and I'm sure you know more than I could even imagine, right? And so having fun with that, and it actually is a really easy stand-in for what's happening in the soil and what's happening in our bodies and what's happening in our system. So I think that there's a way that can really be a fun way. And so if your message is, this is the biodiverse tomato brand and they're owning the heirloom tomato, then it feels like it's really simple and memorable and exciting and will help. Yeah.
Here, I'll pass that down. So a couple of things that I've been thinking about. I appreciated the clarification on audiences. I'm a big fan of believe deeply in empathy. You can start with understanding the vantage point of the audience that you're communicating to in order to sort of dial in what is the right frame and communication points. And so it helps to know that essentially chefs and or executive chefs are the audience at the moment. And I've been reading about, obsessing over both region and chefs actually a lot lately. You know, my son wants to be a chef. I want Smoketown to have a deep practice in regenerative ag. And one of my 2 cents is that I think that where the ball is going, what I hear a lot of chefs talking about is that regeneratively raised, regeneratively grown products taste better. I think eventually there'll be proof that there's help too, but the science is not yet there, as I understand it. But I think that from like Chef Barber at, I forget the name of the restaurant, my son probably remembers. Yes, he's on a path of sort of creating and regenerating seeds that produce demonstrably better carrots, et cetera. You know, he's a cutting edge thinker that a lot of chefs are looking to. There's books being written about it. I'm reading one right now called something like What Your Food Ate. So I think that to the degree that the storytelling certainly needs to talk about regen, because regen and biodiversity are the reason to believe, they're the RTB for the benefit, and the benefit is this is a better tasting tomato. Heirloom tomatoes already have the presumption that they taste better. Literally everybody assumes, I'm saying everybody, I'm exaggerating a lot because I've had a lot of coffee, but I just think like the consumer's knee-jerk reaction from just like decades and decades of, you know, generational knowledge passed down is that heirloom tomatoes taste better. Compound that with regenerative agriculture, the cutting edge thinkers in culinary believing that that food tastes better. My instinct is that that's probably where there's a powerful story. But another thing that, you know, I believe deeply in, and it's tied into the empathy piece, is frankly, you guys are at a stage where you can experiment relentlessly. So trying to figure out how to not put all of your eggs, or all of your tomatoes, I guess, in a single basket from a messaging standpoint, and find a way to iterate your way through and create the feedback loops. I love what you said about starting in a focused way so that you have the feedback loop from the universities. Learning your way into what's actually working is this instinct correct? I think will help. And then the last piece that I'll add, I know that the focus is on what to communicate to chefs, executive chefs, and those folks. But I think that if it turns out that your leading edge sources of points of distribution are universities, that feels like, let's make that happen. Like that is a tremendous opportunity, because I think the story that we just articulated, that will work for chefs, of the consumer universe that actually cares about regen and is willing to sort of pay a lot of that. I think it's students in that age range. If there's time later or swing by, there's a really good study that I'm still working my way through on regenerative ag with consumers. It's the first comprehensive consumer study I've ever seen that really gets into regen messaging, benefits, et cetera. I'm happy to share more details about it at some point.
So I have a couple of comments. First of all, presumably your products are going to be more expensive than just tasteless, crappy tomatoes from California or elsewhere. And so part of, I think, your core argument to the operator is they should get credit for that. And so it might be too much of a stretch to get Tomato Bliss on the menu, but to get heirloom tomatoes from Michigan on the menu is very doable, I think. A lot of chefs like to promote sourcing locally, fresh, support the local economy, all the reasons, and then an additional opportunity to talk about how special heirloom varieties are. The other thing is when it comes to university, there's two broad segments, right? One is NACUFs, which are self-operators, National Association College and University Food Service. So the people who run the food service are employees of the university. They have a much greater premium on quality, less sensitivity to price. The alternative are the big contract feeders, Aramark, Marriott, Compass, et cetera. And they tend to have national contracts with big suppliers. So targeting NACUFs within university is likely to be more successful. That's it.
I've given them all my advice for a year and a half now. I'll take it back.
Well, yeah, and then we can open it up too.
So I would just add, you might want to have a conversation with Shire and maybe your Tomato Bliss should be going on their ravioli. But I wanted to mention really quickly that what we're seeing in the restaurant business is more and more restaurants that are opening up with the type of theme of food that you're providing. So I think you have a great opportunity here. And I know in at least Minnesota, in my area, a lot of the restaurants are also putting the packaged product on the shelf within the restaurant for the consumer to pick up. So look for those opportunities as well.
I wanted to build one thing that Bob said that I had written down in my notes, but I think is worth reiterating. My take away from what you described earlier is that not only is the go-to-market strategy focused on finding just a select few really good strategic accounts, it sounds like because you've chosen a broker who has a particular specialization in Michigan, did I hear that right? That you're doubling down on Michigan itself, like you're in Michigan. So I think that there's, I just want to reiterate what Bob said. Probably above regen food tastes better is locally sourced. So you, like part of your question was, like, how might we prioritize across a staggering array of things that you can say because the product is amazing and the brand is beautiful. It feels like the local piece, particularly tied into your go-to-market strategy, is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, and I would just add that, local, the definition of local can stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you're in South Bend,
yeah,
and it's local Michigan heirloom tomatoes, that'll work. So who would like to offer some ideas? Sarah? Do you have a microphone?
Here, Bob.
Oh.
You know, runner.
Oh, we need a runner. A runner.
I think you have a really big opportunity with chefs are really into not only the farm to fork movement, but now regenerative, that they want to feel like they're a part of it and they have a stake in it. Because you're vertically integrated, you could actually go to like a Rick Bayless who, has all the Mexican restaurants in Chicago, who his restaurants are, he has Frontera, but his restaurants are more high end. He might want to partner with you and do a co-branded type situation where you're really selling more of the farm and the platform of your tomatoes along with their brand. So that might be something where you partner because you have the ability to, on the fly make these recipes. Yeah.
Great. Who else? In the back.
All right. So one path to chefs that really worked for me, I'm out of Texas, was I actually went to culinary schools and connected with some of the folks in there. And they were very happy to meet a supplier, which I was kind of surprised. But they invited me to they have monthly meetings and things like that. And I got to network with chefs. And they said they do, in the state of Texas, they do a chef conference. I don't know if this will be similar in Michigan, but you could check it out. But they do a national conference, and they actually invited me to come be a vendor and bring my products and share that with all the chefs. So it was really a way to get kind of a lot of chefs in the state as a captive audience to share a lot of your products with. And so if they're interested, and then they're also pretty networked with all the chefs in like the different restaurants and all that in the state. And so it was a way to also like, once you get your words gotten out in that group, it kind of spreads. So.
Excellent.
That's a great point. I want to build on that real quick. Kendall College in Evanston, it has a great culinary program and local. So I think just to build, to take her Texas example and apply it to where you literally are, I think that's a great choice.
So we recently started working a lot, well, maybe a year and a half ago with, Andrea with White Rock Granola, with Compass and Aramark. And what we're finding is getting into, and we just got in about 6 months ago to Southern Methodist University, and they're serving us on their breakfast line, much like it's been served here. So what we are finding is that the local is something that they actually have a check mark they have to meet. They're required to meet, and the women-owned thing. And if you'll come to me later, I have a couple connections I can give you on that
Excellent.
score that fit their little check box.
Grant Burgess, Monique, one of the things I was going to say, just building on the culinary school, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Grand Rapids Community College has a great culinary school too. So that's another local avenue to go after as well.
Excellent. Josh?
Hi, Joshua with Bella Sardines and Ziba Fruits and Nuts. And we spoke yesterday about the heirloom piece, and I think a little bit, knowing a little bit more about the land and the heirloom, and a little bit more backstory on that really would differentiate everything. So I'd love to know more about sort of how you, the land and the growing and sort of storing those seeds and everything like that. And that effort would really resonate with us. And we're finding that people really want to know about our story in Afghanistan and the heirloom and the farmers and all that. So that would really enhance a lot.
And if the universities will let you put up, banners and be able to have those college students have a QR code and go watch that beautiful video and learn more about the heirloom tomato. Who else?
This might be a little bit out there, but greenhouse farming of tomatoes is becoming more and more popular. I don't know if you have like a proprietary seed or something that's unique to your heirloom business, but for reaching food service, potentially you could partner with a greenhouse group that could integrate greenhouses into restaurants where they're growing your tomatoes. So you could have a beautiful experience where your people are seeing your tomatoes being grown. Just a thought.
Hey, Cole Riley. I know the focus was on food service, but just at the consumer level, I want to be hit over the head on one message, whether it's the heirloom and why it's great and why you got to be eating it, or this is the cleanest tomato soup you'll ever eat. It's grown ABC and all these different points about the farming, but why heirlooms? Like, I buy tomato soup once in a blue moon. Like, why should I be reaching for yours? Why should I be buying this now every week? And just hitting me why heirlooms are better than your standard California tomato grown, en masse. So one of those two messages, I think it's the heirloom. You just hit me over the head. It's very visual. There's health benefits, why it tastes better. And then you go into the farming practices. But the other way works well. If you want to go more macro and say, we are making the cleanest tomatoes in the country. Oh,
Thanks, Cole. All right, one more question in the back.
Where was that hand? Oh.
Awesome job. And building on what Leslie said, I'm sure you thought about this, but when it comes to produce, a lot of produce coming out of Mexico is branded, believe it or not, in like 10-pound bags or something like that. There's also like Melissa's, So very different than food service, but an idea that I had was you could be like the branded heirloom brand for specialty crops and produce in stores. I know the margins can be fairly nice, and as you're growing since you're the farmer as well, you can, in a co-op, you can do very well on the branded side to be the, on what Leslie's saying, like the heirloom company, heirloom brand. Because you can do like burrata with like balsamic vinaigrette and stuff like that. People would like heirlooms.
Any final thoughts from our panel?
I'm just going to add on really quickly. This is not about your question, but it would really be great if on the label, it really screamed tomato and heirloom, and I'm not necessarily seeing that on the label. And then I did go to your website, and it would be great to have like farm pictures when you first land on your website, so you can actually see that regenerative aspect.
Thanks. Yeah, so Monique, any responses, comments?
What a delight. This was so much fun. I wanted to start by just expressing my gratitude. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for this whole community that's come together, to my panelists that have such brilliant minds that offered me great advice, and you guys did too. I'll quickly touch on a couple things because I have a couple minutes. Price, yes. So we are priced as a premium soup, but we're not an outlier. My understanding is we're priced in alignment with other fresh soups. What I will say is the benefit of Tomato Bliss is that we have been able to develop a shelf staple format. So instead of coming frozen, our soups, they don't require cold chain. They don't take up freezer space, which my understanding is chefs really love, and they don't need to be slacked out. So we're hoping to kind of balance that with price and then also the convenience. And then in terms of retail, yes, we will absolutely strategically roll out in retail in the future. That is my hope and my aim. I see a great opportunity for us to kind of bridge the gap between the freshness of the produce aisle and the convenience of the center of grocery store and the soup aisle. So it's not in front of us today, perhaps, but in time, I think that's a great recommendation. And then lastly, I just want to say, if I can be of service to anyone in the room, if our story resonated, or if there's information that we can swap, please find me afterwards. It takes a village to build a business. And also I brought some jars of Tomato Bliss, so I'd be delighted if you guys wanted to grab them. We like to just open them and drink them straight from the jar. But of course, you can warm them up, chill them, make a meal, and any feedback, constructive or otherwise, I really welcome. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. That was good.